Hi, and welcome to the next part of my second lesson on the guitar playing heard behind Little Walter. And we're going to go from ninth chords to seventh chords. And seventh chords in different shapes and forms are commonly heard in a lot of Little Walter stuff. We're going to start out with maybe the most common, what you also hear in the playing of Muddy Waters and Sonny Boy Williams, and a lot of the old blues stuff is a seventh chord that's really derived from the old country blues. Lightning Hopkins, Mance Lipscomb, a lot of those guys use this, Robert Johnson. And it's a 3-finger seventh chord. So what I've done here is I put a capo on the first fret, and we're going to play out of the first position, first position E shape. So actually my F7th chord I'm going to make here on the 4th, 3rd, and 4th frets. The shape is really, it is just a D7th. So if I had my capo off and was playing at the 1st and 2nd frets with this, I would have a D7th shape. So we're just scooting it down or up to make it an F7. So here's my F, E chord shape position. So we go 1, 2, 3, and that's an F7th. I've got my first finger on the 2nd string at the 3rd fret. My ring finger, or my first finger, is going to go on the 4th fret of the 3rd string, and my ring finger is going to come down on the 1st string at the 3rd fret. And in Little Walter stuff, you hear this used in a lot of ways. You hear it as kind of a faster thing, like this. Or you can hear it used in a slow tune. And again later I'm going to show you some specific songs of his and show you the chord progressions and patterns and how he uses these. So let me give you some examples of how you can use this chord. One way is to play it on the 1, and then when the song goes to the 4, which a lot of the songs do, they stay on the 1 and then they go to the 4 and then back to the 1 right away. So you can do something like this. All I'm doing there is go into an A7th shape, which would be, if I'm an F, that's going to be a B flat 7. Some guys will just take that F, the D7th shape, and scoot it down. You can do it that way too, so something like this. Or you can do this. Then when you complete that, you can use your 9ths and then go to the 4. So that's an idea that you can do with that. But that's a basic 7th. Now that A7 shape, you can use this in a lot of different ways. There's a tune called Key to the Highway, which I'll show you later, where he uses mostly these A7 shapes. And right here I've got my first finger barring at the 2nd fret, 1st through 4th strings. And then I'm putting my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. And that is a A7th shape, which is a B flat 7th with the capo. So whatever chord you're playing, this is how I remember it. I am not very musical. I remember things in weird ways. I have a good memory, so I memorize a lot of stuff. This is a C bar chord, 2nd position bar chord. I know that I can take my first finger and come down to, or up to, and that's my C7. So here's C, C7. Here's D, here's D7. Here's F, F7, G, G7. And in Little Walter tunes, let's just do the Key to the Highway right now. And in that tune, I can't remember, I think it's in G, but I'm going to play an F. He does this thing where he comes down. Let me do it again. Uses it to go from the 5 to the 4 the 1. And so that's a chord that you hear in a lot of Little Walter's stuff. And you can listen to Key to the Highway. That's a great example to hear him using those 7th chords. Now that picking I did, what I'm doing there, I've got my first finger on at the 4th fret of the, barring the first 4 strings, and that is a C7. And then I'm taking my pinky going here to the 9th fret, or the 7th fret, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th fret, which would normally be the 8th fret. And that is a long C chord. And I can bounce back and forth between that, having my pinky on that 7th fret and my second finger on the 5th fret. And that's kind of a neat thing. So this is a long A shape. But since I'm starting it here at the 4th fret, it becomes a C. And there's a C7. So I'm going back and forth between a C, C, and a C7. Like that. Now when I started playing, I'm so used to playing that tune with the thumb bass going, I started doing that with a flat pick. That's kind of hard to do. So there's another use of a 7th chord. Now another 7th shape that you hear in a lot of Little Walter stuff is what I call a Magic Sam 7th, which is something like this. And there's a couple different ways to get that chord. One is to make a B7 shape. And in a lot of Little Walter's stuff, and this is true for the Sonny Boy Williamson stuff too, when the tune gets to the 5, you'll hear something like this. You'll hear him play that over the 5. And then back to the 4 and the 1. So instead of playing the bass rhythm, you'll hear. And if you're playing the lead, you might play something like this. But to get to the 5, you're just playing the 7th chord. Now let's say I don't have the capo on, and I'm playing a tune in G, and I get to the 5, I can make the chord like this. And I call that the Magic Sam 7th. I've got my first finger on the 2nd fret of the 2nd string. I've got my pinky on the 1st string at the 4th fret. I've got my second finger on the 4th string at the 3rd fret. And I've got my ring finger on the 3rd string at the 4th fret. That's really just that same shape. And so if I were playing in G without the capo, what I could do is go into my 5 like this. Do something like that. So that's another 7th shape, just really the B7. You'll see on so many of these tunes, the guitar player who's playing maybe both of them, but at least one of them is using a capo. So when they play a chord, that 5 chord is going to be the B7 shape. And they're going to use that A7 shape for the 4 quite a bit too. So that 7th chord is one that'll really come in handy. Now we're going to stop with the 7th chords, and we're going to take a look at some of Little Walter's tunes with really neat chord progressions.